Alright, 112, Union Pacific Rules of Track Welding Rules and Procedure Electric Flash Butt Welding Chapter following instructions here with the making electric flash butt with welding utilizing mobile in-track welder equipment, types of welding equipment, operator reference mark, welding near fixed structures, welding guideline, weather guidelines, rail equipment. Rail requirements, weld location, preparation, flash butt weldings, torch cut rail endings, traffic restriction, railhead, finishing, grinding, rail webs, fillets, bases, measure welding, cooling rate, welding rejection, acceptance, welding quality standards, identifying welds. Alright, the EFB electro flash butt welds will be either the following type: heat head welded, which weld is made with one or both rails not securely longitudinally. Closure welds, which are made with longitudinal secured rails using rail puller super jack to pull rails together during the welding. Flash upset, which will hold the rails in place during cooling. Welding equipment operators, Union Pacific employee with operator control of the electric flash butt welding equipment must do so under the direct supervision of qualified employee. Reference mark. Reference marks must be applied with the rail prior to the cutting of the rail. The must be applied with the corner for the engineering track maintenance field handbook section 792. Placing reference mark with the tap of the reference marks to either this managing continuous weld rail at events. Spanning reference marks if the servers failures pull apart with the detector to car defect the track panels less than equal to 80-foot. Rail change out less than 80 foot. Refer to section 793. Planning spanning reference marks. Pulling back reference marks with the rail changing greater than 80 foot, less than equal to 360 feet. Track panels greater than 80 feet, less than equal to 160 feet. Reference section 79. Placing pullback reference marks. Match marks are the rail changing out greater than 360 feet with a refer to section 405.1 monitoring movement. Alright, welding near rig fixed structure with a minimized longitudinal strip of the track components down the closure of the welds with a 150 foot with aim rail cruising diamond and turning out. All restraints must be applied with a between closure weld frog, applying solid box pattern rail anchors. The ETMFH specification turn on closure with the welds of the must change with the Union Pacific Railroad switch point with the stock rail specification. Do not raise neutral temperature above the subdivision rail laying. Temperature care must be taken to working near detectors insulated joint with other signal applicants. Appliance when welding is near a tunnel with a tunnel curve. Do not overstretch the rail. Overstretching can disturb the track alignment and degree of the tunnel clearances. Weather guidelines. Union Pacific Welding Manager, Welding Supervisor will determine the condition of the shape of the operation. Welding is prohibited with the first 30 inches of the rail measured for each rail and cannot be kept dry. Precautions must be taken off the shield of the weld. With the exercise of moisture, welding is permitted with the web of the rail to be heated, dry, or kept dry until the weld is completed. Ensure all the weld machine fluids include welding head, super jag, operating temperature before starting welding process. If raining, snowing, and welding blanket must be placed over the weld immediately after shearing to prevent moisture for the contact weld during the high wind condition of the welding temperature below 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Rail requirements, rail placement, even the maintenance, welding, and track with the operation must meet the following conditions. Minimum length of 15, vertical height difference of the existing rail must not exceed a quarter inch. Torch cut end of the must recut with the rail saw with the thermite weld must be removed with the practical. Most ultrasonic testing certified with the installation requirements for Section 4 Engineering Track Maintenance Field Book Handbook. Do not use the electro flash butt welding alloy rail. Welding location, welding making weld and track. Do not make a weld on top of the tie. If the welds are made out of track, unknown with the weld will once railed installed. Excess welded material must be ground out from the bottom of the bull side of the rail base, flush with apparent steel with the proper fit with the tie plate or seat with each of the two good ties immediately each on or each side of the weld for the proper support. Preparation, welding torch cut rail end prohibited before flush butt welding. Remove the skill of the rust with the grease of the welding. Electrodes will contact the real web. Air to be clean must be ground and bring metal. Remove the grinding or roll, raise the lettering and other protrusion where electrodes or jack welds will contact the rail. Clear the rail end of the all form material. All bolt holes shall be eliminated when possible. Complete weld books not closer than 6 inches of the center. Any of the hole, including bolt hole, the rail bond holes, all bolt holes made with the deburred, developed, beveled, and inspect the defect of the left in the track. Alright, prepare the weld location. Weld location must be between the tie of the provide with adequate clearance of the shear of the required, including removing the ballast. Track must be properly aligned with the trip of the prior to welding. Adds eared wood ties nest. Here to provide proper clearance. Welded head anchor fasteners must remove the allow with the movement of the lining rail with all fastener plate with the removed must be clear of the welding during the welding operation. On closure of the move of the minimum of 300-foot anchor with the fastener of the standard composition welds and minimum 200-foot with low composition welds. Have fixed track structures and can remove the additional anchor with the opposite of the direction weld makes out of the track with the must be in the bottom side of the side of the base ground flush with the parent metal with the do not weld battery rail ends of the strip of the bent rails. Flash butt welding procedures. Rail must be aligned vertical to provide finished weld within the vertical crown, vertical offset with the dimension of the aim at the temperature vertical rail height with the must be between the rail ends less than 1/8 inch aligned with the rail head with the end of them provide with the offset of the base of the vertical rail height between the rail ends of 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch. Split with the difference between the base of the rail head. Do not offset with the base more than 1/8 inch from vertical rail height between the rail ends of the more than 1/2 inch. The better matching the rail compromise with the transit rail must be installed. Any rail end cut with a rail saw should be square with a 1/8 inch both vertical and horizontal rail ends may be welded to combine with a deviation more than 1/4 inch will be rejected but from a recut to check with the two rail touching. If the rail ends are not square to the top or the bottom of the side of the electro flash butting, equipment operator must manually burn the rails more than 1/4 inch before starting the welding process remaining except if the rail must be cut off with a rail saw. Alright, torch cut rail end with all rail is prepared with electric flash butt welding shall be squared with a rail sail with the welding torch cut rail end with the prohibited rail end cuts with the oxy fuel torch will be trimmed back not less than 1/4 inch if done with a 15 minutes with the initial torch cut. If the rail ends cannot be recut with a rail sail within 15 minutes with the torch cut, minimum of the 2 inch must be removed with the go beyond the thermal heat crack. If complete with the must be re-weld with the torch cut if the do with the rail compression. Trim back each of the rail end with not less than 1/4 inch. The trimming must be completed within 30 minutes with each torch cut. Torch cut. If rewarded well, the torch cut rails cannot be recut with trimmed with the rail saw within 30 minutes with a minimum of 2 inch for each of the rail must be removed to go beyond the thermal heat cracks. Notify if the rail is in compression. It may be possible to simply cut the rail with a rail saw. Traffic restriction, train traffic, heavy work equipment, spiker temperatures must not be allowed electric field over the electric flash butt weld unit. Weld until the ITW equipment is exempt. The running strip of the gauge of the rough ground with a 30,000th of an inch for the end weld with the ever cooled to 700 degrees Fahrenheit. All welds, jacks, blocks were removed. Says in each side of the weld had been tamped. Hurry your rail head, grind the gauge on the field side of the rail too much of the existing rail profile, remove overload. The remaining surface of the weld should be ground and exactly matched with the contour existing rail radius is applied with the gauge of the field corner of the now sharp edge remain. Do not overground the rails, do not move with the parent material. When tapering rail due to the vertical gauge face mismatch, do not grind off weld with the parent metal. Use the following formula to determine the proper length with the tank for minimum ramp length feet. Offset 1,000 of an inch over 8,000 of an inch, and it showed that the 30,000 of an inch is 4 inches, 60,000 of an inch, 8 inches, 9,000 of an inch, 12 inches, 125,000 of an inch, 16 inches. Finishing grinding rail webs and fillet bases. When grind rail webs and fillet bases, grind all welds smooth to within 1/16 of the original contour of the web. Fillets do not grind with the parent metal. Grind the top of the base within 1/16 of the original contour. Grind the side of the base smooth. Visually inspect all the weld with defects include where the current carrying electrodes may contact the rail web. When shearing upside with inspect with the air of the web every weld gauge with the smear with the reject any weld that has gouged into the parent material. All smears must be grounded from the welds. Measuring welded cooling rate. Welding temperature must be like 700 degrees before releasing weld head. Superjack lower crown cylinders using pyrometer and radius between the weld and the head of the web. Weld rejection and acceptance welding ships that indicate the weld with the outer spec with the interruption curve of the doing of the welding circle of the weld must be considered with the effective remove the rail re-welded. If an out of spec weld with a bad weld is identified and marked by the welding system shown with the welding certificate and chart, and weld must be removed and rail re-welded. If no chart is available, the weld must be removed and rail re-welded. Weld charts and certificates must be reviewed on Union Pacific supervisor personnel verified as good weld before signing daily weld production form at each weld produced and left in the track. Weld quality standards. Finished welds must meet the following requirements: the hot and cold ambient temperature finished ground specification class 1 through 5, 60,000 to 20,000 of an inch vertical offset and crown, 40,000 to 25,000 of an inch horizontal offset and kink base offset. Horizontal offset 16,000, vertical offset 125,000. Class 6, 30,000 vertical crown, 20,000 of an inch vertical offset, 30,000 of an inch horizontal offset, 25,000 of an inch horizontal kink, 60,000 of an inch base horizontal offset, and 125,000 base vertical offset. If the rail difference width is greater than 125,000 offset with the top of the rail, grinding offset with the top of the rail must be tapered to provide a smooth transition. We must not be overgrounded. Use straight periodically. Check progress. Identify welds. Rail temperature amount of the rail. Remove the record with the field side of the rail web. The white metal marker of the engineering department require the placement of the welding tags on all weld. The item number of the track with the ID tag welding 4127661. See figure 1112J with the placement of the welding application will be on field side of the rail web near the weld. The weld is shown in the illustration below. Applied silicone adhesive. Generous amount of adhesive back of the weld to ensure the adequate adhesion be installed with the metal weld. The IT metal punch to indicate welding employee ID, ITW machine number, ITW welding. We can cycle the numbers starting with the first of each year, month of year where the weld was installed. Alright, 113 switch maintenance grinding.